There is a single living thing so massive that it could stretch to the sun and back nearly 1 billion times. It's not in the ocean. It's not in space. It's beneath your feet, right now. And until last week, nobody knew its true size. Scientists finally managed to measure it, and the number breaks your brain. But the size isn't even the scary part. The scary part is what this thing does to the trees, in silence, every single day. Stay until the end, because after this video, you will never look at the ground the same way again. Let's start with the size. In June of 2026, an international team of scientists published the first global map of this creature in the journal Science. They gathered 16,000 soil samples from deserts to tundra and used artificial intelligence to calculate the total size. The result? 110 quadrillion kilometers. Not in area, in length. If you stretched the threads of this creature into a straight line, they would reach from the Earth to the Sun and back almost 1 billion times. That's enough length to leave our solar system and keep traveling through space. And it's not just long. It's heavy. This entire network holds around 300 million tons of carbon. That's 4 to 6 times the weight of all of humanity combined. All 8 billion human beings stacked on a scale weigh less than this thing hidden in the dirt. And still, you have never seen it. Why? Because it's made of threads thinner than a hair. This creature is a fungus. But forget the mushroom on your plate. The mushroom is just the tip, the flower that pops up on the surface. The real body lives underground, and it's called the mycelium. Millions of white filaments, called hyphae, spreading through the soil in every direction. A single handful of forest dirt can hide kilometers of these threads. They're under your garden, under the sidewalk, under the entire forest. But the most incredible part isn't where this creature is. It's what it's for. And the answer sounds like science fiction. And here comes the first big twist. This giant creature is not a hungry monster. It's a network. And this network has a job to connect plants to one another. Scientists gave it the perfect nickname. They call it the Wood Wide Web, a kind of internet made of fungi that links the trees of an entire forest. But how did a plant and a fungus become partners? The story began hundreds of millions of years ago. The tree knows how to do something the fungus can't, capture sunlight and turn it into sugar. The fungus knows how to do something the tree struggles with, stretch its tiny threads through every grain of soil and pull out water, phosphorus, and nitrogen. So they make a deal. The tree gives sugar to the fungus. The fungus gives water and nutrients to the tree. Both win. And this deal is so old and so important that today around 90% of all plants on Earth depend on it to survive. And this deal has an even deeper story. About 450 million years ago, plants did not exist on dry land. All green life was trapped in the water. The continents were bare rock and dust. Then the first little plants tried to move onto land, but they had no real roots to find water and nutrients in the dry soil. Who solved this problem? The fungi. They attached to those first plants and became the roots they didn't have. Without this partnership with fungi, plants might never have conquered land. In other words, every forest, every field, every tree you have ever seen exists only because, long ago, a fungus held hands with a plant. Without them, dry land might still be a desert of rock. But giving nutrients to a plant is only the beginning, because this network does something that for a long time scientists thought was impossible. It lets the trees talk to each other. Now hold on, because this is where it gets really strange. In the 1990s, a scientist named Suzanne Simard ran an experiment in a forest in Canada. She marked the sugar of some trees with a special type of carbon so she could track it, and she discovered something nobody expected. The sugar from one tree showed up inside another tree. Different trees of different species were passing food to each other, underground, through the fungi. The forest wasn't a competition of every tree for itself. It was a community. Simard discovered that there are huge ancient trees that work as central hubs,
She called them mother trees. A single mother tree can be linked to hundreds of other trees around it through this fungal network, and it uses that connection to care for the others. When a small seedling sprouts in the shade, unable to get enough light to make its own sugar, the mother tree senses it, and it sends sugar through the network, like a mother feeding a child. When a tree is dying, it does something moving. It dumps most of its carbon into the network, sharing its final resources with the neighbors, like an inheritance. The forest takes care of its own. And there's more. This network is also an alarm system. When an insect starts attacking the leaves of a tree, the tree releases chemical defense signals, and those signals travel through the fungal network to the neighboring trees. The neighbors get the warning and start producing their own defenses before the insect even reaches them. The trees are, in a way, warning each other. Careful, danger is coming. Stop for a second and think about what that means. That silent, still forest that looks like a bunch of isolated plants is actually buzzing with messages. Food moving from one side to the other, danger alerts, mothers feeding children, all happening in an invisible network, underground, in complete silence. You might be standing on top of the biggest conversation on the planet and never notice.
And if you think this fungus is just a passive pipe where things simply flow through, get ready. Scientists discovered that it behaves almost like a trader. The fungal network negotiates. When phosphorus is scarce in one part of the soil, the fungus charges more for it, demanding more sugar from the plant in return. And even more impressive, the fungus moves nutrients inside its own network, carrying phosphorus from the regions where it's abundant and cheap to the regions where it's rare and worth more to get a better price. It's a market with supply and demand, running underground, with no brain, with nobody in charge. Just fungal threads following simple rules and together forming something that looks almost intelligent. And this network can form the largest living beings that have ever existed. In a forest in Oregon in the United States, scientists found a single fungus of this kind that spreads across 9 square kilometers of soil. One single organism, the size of more than 1,000 football fields. And it's not just giant, it's ancient. This fungus is estimated to be at least 2,400 years old. It was already there, growing in silence, when the Roman Empire didn't even exist yet. It is by far one of the largest and oldest living things on Earth, and it's practically invisible. But none of this, not the size, not the age, not the conversation between the trees, compares to what this network is doing for your life, right now, without you asking.
Maybe the most important part of this story isn't the size or the age. It's what this network does for the entire planet. Remember, it trades sugar with the plants. That sugar is made of carbon, the same carbon that in the atmosphere as a gas is heating up the planet. And the plants are pumping that carbon down into the ground to pay the fungi. A study in 2023 calculated how much. The answer, more than 13 billion tons of carbon dioxide every year being buried in the soil through the fungi. To give you an idea, that's equal to about 1/3 of everything humanity emits by burning oil and coal each year. It's more than the entire country of China emits. This invisible network of fungi is, today, one of the largest carbon capture systems on the planet. It is silently holding back part of climate change, and almost nobody talks about it. And that's where the problem lies. We only measured the size of this network now, in 2026. We're discovering how important it is at the exact moment we are destroying it. Agriculture, pesticides, concrete, and the plow break these threads every single day. Scientists estimate that most of this network sits in areas with no protection at all. We are losing a system that holds up the forests and the climate before we even understand how it works.
So the next time you walk through a park or through a forest, remember, the ground beneath you is not just dirt. It's a living creature, 110 quadrillion kilometers long. It's a network that connects every tree you see. It's a place where mothers feed children, where plants warn each other of danger, and where the world's carbon is buried in silence. The biggest tree in the forest isn't the tallest one. It's the hidden web that holds all the others, hand in hand, beneath your feet. If this video made you look at the ground differently, tell me down in the comments. Did you imagine there was a living internet under the ground? And subscribe to the channel, because the next thing science found hidden right under our nose is even harder to believe than this one. See you next time.